Hello there, folks, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Bringing you in a little early today because I wanted to take a look around the map before we get started. This is a brand new map that just hit the bar leaderboards, and I am excited to take a look at it here. It's called Red River Estuary, version 1.1. And immediate impressions are that it actually reminds me a lot of that Red River Run map. If you guys remember that one, it's sort of got this, Red River that just streaks through the entire map, kind of like this. There's like inlets here and something like that, and then everybody's playing it. It's a very, very long map, but anyway, that's kind of the vibe that this one gives me. But I do notice right away that there are no land paths. At least I don't think so. This looks like it's all deep water here. Maybe not. Maybe you can walk bots across over here-ish, like kind of on this land. See where it's sort of purple, but also... I don't know. We'll have to see here. We'll have to see if the bots can cross. Otherwise, this is going to be a very heavy hovercraft and Navy based map, I guess. It's gonna be interesting to see. But I'm excited to see where this one goes. This is a bit of a longer game, so grab your sody, grab your water, grab a cold refreshment, some popcorn, some chips. Kick back, relax, and come along for the ride. I do notice on the mini-map up here, it's a little easier to distinguish the purple from the black, which might indicate the height difference that allows you to traverse it. We'll see here if anybody makes bots, whether that's a mistake or not. The important part is that this isn't traversable right here. I'm almost certain that this isn't traversable terrain right in this area, which does mean that these players up north are, I guess, in attacking position. They're very exposed because it is basically a laning map. Everybody's kind of on their own lane. But yeah, these players are going to be in interesting conundrums here. It looks like Wakand Anon is getting ready for some shenanigans, already planning it out with a little arrow here. The red team leader today is going to be Steel Blue, spawning on the southern side and going for that Navy start. The tidal speed here is 22, which means that we are above the fusion reactor threshold. So just building tidal generators is going to be more efficient than building straight up fusion reactors. Good to know. That the magic number is 21, I believe. If it's 21, it's more efficient. If it's 20, then it's less efficient. The balance falls somewhere between those two numbers. But anyway, 22 is going to be slightly more efficient than the fusion reactor, so I love the naval starts here. And what I would love as well is to see maybe some of these players hand over tidal power to the land lovers. They're going to be, they'll be pretty grateful for it, I'm sure. Okay, let's take a look at the traversability maps here. Here, let me just select one of these bots, and if we hit F2, yeah, there we go. Okay, so green is supposed to be... Interesting. Green is supposed to be traversable. I'm not sure if it's the water messing with the hue or if it is really just too deep for these units. Purple means it's problematic. Or purple means it's you can't move, but red means it's problematic. So, yeah, actually, I think they might be able to cross these waters. I think right across here they're going to be able to go. So basically like this, and then everywhere in the center here. It should probably be available. I guess we'll see, won't we? And that confirms it. Okay, so Rover is able to drive through the shallow water, and eventually we'll be able to harass from the other side. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We do see a couple of pawns streaking across this this little gap here, this little choke point between these two sides of the river. Very nice to see. And we have, I just realized I never introduced our blue team leader. It's gonna be Zerpy Derp. Zerpy Derp, our blue team leader in the southern section as well, also started in the naval position, perfectly mirrored up against the red team leader. Although, as far as true skill goes, I would probably not call this a quote-unquote balanced match. Looks like there's quite a few higher skill players for the red team than there are for the blue. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some, or rather, the other way around, sorry. The higher skill players for the blue as opposed to the red. But that being said, I mean, we'll see what Zerpy Derp is capable of here. Zerpy Derp's been on and off the channel here and there, so I'm sure we're going to see some good stuff. Blitzes are going to be the name of the game, and it's hard to go wrong with them. They're a strong unit for sure. Looks like those hovercraft did take that path up towards the northern side, trying to sneak around. What I think I'd love to see is combined arms here, where we have one of these players go for hovercraft and the other go for bots, and then the hovercraft player is in charge of offense and the bot player is in charge of defense. We've got the blitzes pushing forward here, but I'm kind of worried that these are going to get caught in an unfortunate position, and that's going to be a lot of metal that just goes right into the hands of K Sulfur. These are some wild looking plants, by the way. What on earth? I just now realized what I'm looking at here. These are bizarre. They look like they look straight off of Kashyyyk. That is insane. Huh. Okay. The little tentacle plants. Very interesting. K-Sulfur getting some nice D-guns here, shutting down a couple of those blitzes, but a ton of them still leak into the back line. That's going to be 5 total for Walnut as the blitzes continue their charade. We do see units coming out from Reign of Terror. Interesting to see a backline Navy player. We don't usually see that. That's quite interesting. Yeah, backline Navy. Yeah, a map doesn't come to mind that has a backline Navy position, as far as I can remember. These Seekers over here are still getting tons of value out. The more damage that these can do, the better, obviously, but you don't have to do much in order to pay for these. They're pretty cheap. 85 metal, 1,250. As far as hovercraft go, anyway, that's relatively cheap. Sort of a mix between a vehicle and a ship, right? So a little bit more expensive than than normal, but they are well worth it. Now, these missile corvettes are quite nice. These can launch their missiles from really far out, and they're a great siege option. Not super high damage, but definitely very annoying. As Babe is learning right here on the front lines. Yeah, these missile corvettes can cause a lot of pain. Yeah, target the commander. Punish the commander for daring to repair over on the front lines here. Commander is going to try and keep this alive, and it will work for now, but the more of those corvettes come out, the harder and harder that's going to be. Xeno Dragon is getting a destroyer out here as well, so once that destroyer hits the field, this is going to become much more difficult to hold. Meanwhile, destroyers are also out here for Zerpyderp. What are the metal spots like? Looks like it's 2 per metal spot here. Just double checking that it's the same all around. It is not. There are some more important metal spots here in the center of the map. Looks like kind of right down the middle of this line are all 2.6. So slightly more important to hold on to. Which does mean that I actually really like this position here for David Blade, who has pushed forward and captured all these metal extractors and then gone into a boat lab. Very nicely done. Yeah, we're giving up our bot lab here, or rather we're just no longer producing out of it in order to produce some dolphins to sail the high seas, and this is a great mixed army composition. The only thing that I would add on to this is maybe a couple of res bots, at least at this point. Just imagine you had a couple res bots to pick up these submarines. The shallow water, the res bots are going to be fine to walk around in, so you can use the high health ships, but you can also resurrect them or repair them and keep them in a fight. Zerpyderp pushing pretty far forward here, showing us that 53 true scale is not for nothing. Yeah, these destroyers can shell away from a long range, and they're pretty difficult to deal with. Mixing in a couple anti-aircraft as well, should we see any shuriken on the battlefield. Those are really popular, especially with the resurgence in Cortex. I don't know if that's really fair to say. I feel like I've been playing against Cortex a whole lot recently, but maybe that's just my personal experience. Anyways, Constructor does wander a step too far forward and get caught by a laser turret. That's unfortunate, because you really want to keep those alive, especially on the front lines here. Speaking of front lines, they're essentially drawn. Well, this area is like defended on the land, and then this area is defended on the sea. So essentially, hovercraft beat this, and hovercraft beat this. So hovercraft seems like the right move to go for up here on the northern side. However, we are instead, we being Lacopa, of course, up here, the light salmon player, going for the T2 transition. So hopefully going to be spreading that T2 love all around to the teammates We do have some of these crocodiles out now, the hover tanks. Those are always really, really nice. They're a great option for when you need to besiege a position that you don't feel comfortable crossing the land bridge for. So using these hover tanks, and you can always escape from these bots by just hovering over to this deeper part of the ocean where those bots can't follow you, and then you've effectively escaped. Always a decent option. Bombers are out here. These are Gate JWs, or Gate I don't know. We'll just go Gate. These are Gate's bombers. They are the purple player, and they're doing some good work here. They've actually ravaged K Sulfur's base. One of the advanced solar panels went down, and the second one is about to finish here. Does come up in time, so that's nice, at least if we want to resurrect. Bombers aren't done, though. They do scout this base. They're, you know, they're doing their best. We did have a sand battery come up here, so that's going to be quite nice for whittling down these bombers. Those sand batteries are very difficult to kill with bombers, especially T1. You kind of you have to allocate a tremendous amount of resources to, or a tremendous amount of bombing power, I should say, in order to take those down. So, all said and done, was that the most effective bombing? I don't think so. I think maybe we could have done a little bit more. I think 1 or 2 more scouting planes snuck through and around to check out what's actually going on over here and make sure that we fly into the right areas, bomb the right areas. I think that probably would have been a little bit better, but all said and done, you can't really complain too much. We did knock down the yellow player at least a little bit. K-Sulfur here in a little bit of trouble. Also having to deal with a whole bunch of harassment on the front line as we have gone into a forward bot lab with Centurions, the medium assault bot here, medium infantry bot. They're a weird one. They kind of, I don't know where they fit in, in Beyond All Reason. They kind of, their laser turret or their laser guns aren't especially effective. They're not impressively effective. They're just all right. And the yeah, their health is also not tremendous. Like, it's high. It's definitely way up there. They're tougher than a thug, but they don't really have the damage in and of themselves to back it up. So I really don't know where they fit. They're kind of a good frontline unit, but then I'd probably just go with a lot more spam, right? A lot more grunts or something like that. Tricky to say. Static defense here doing its job, tearing down a whole bunch of these LSAWs. Meanwhile, Zerpiderp also reclaiming some of them, doing his best to keep the reclaim up. Oh, those submarines are dangerous, though. Can the commanders see underwater? I think that's a change. Yeah, I don't think the commanders used to be able to see submarines, so I think that's actually a change that they've made to this whole thing. Looks like Zerpiderp went for a forward shipyard. Yeah, that's a blue shipyard down right there. So, forward shipyard, kind of a gambit. Looks like it didn't pay off, as now some submarines are causing Zerpiderp a tremendous headache. Submarines do a ton of damage to commanders underwater. It's about 10%, more or less. And yeah, that commander goes down real quick. With Zerpiderp's commander out of the way, there's actually not a whole lot holding this back. Not that the commanders are real devastating to naval units anyways, but certainly it is comforting to know that is chilling at the bottom of the sea. Under the sea, Zerpiderp's commander will be. Down where it's wetter, the shipyard don't get better. Under the sea. I break into song every single time we talk about this. Pardon me, as we look over at Wakandanon, who has got a couple of hover tanks now, a couple of crocodiles, and oh, we're going for static defense. All right, yeah, I was wondering if we were gonna turtle up here, or if we were just gonna make a ton of units. Wow, how do I say this? Gyogi? Is that what that is? Gyogi? Or Guy 0H6Y. Is it like a barcode, right? Anyway, our light blue player up north here has gone into a naval facility and is going to be getting some of those ships out. So that'll be great for breaking this line of urchins. But I mean, we could have also just ignored that if we had gone into hovercraft. Sort of a failure of scouting there, I suppose, but not going to be the end of the world. David Blade. Oh, is that a pun on David Blaine Street Magic? Is that, maybe I missed that? Yeah, okay, I can see it now. Has captured these high-value metal extractors, so the economy's got to be looking pretty good. Yeah, we already on a T2 T2 constructed there. I did see you eating up those T1 solar panels. You're making me proud, David Blade. I believe this is your debut on the Brightworks channel, but you're making a great name for yourself. You're gonna make it places here, kid. Yeah, I believe in you. Artigosaurus using these thugs to try and dish out some pain here to Bobby, and yeah, doing a good job of it. There's a lot of dead units right here. If we pull up our Supreme Metal Vision, we can see about 2,000 metal laying on the floor right there, with another 500 back behind Bobby's position here. Yeah, this is looking pretty good for Bobby. I want to see this metal extractor come back up, but once that happens, I would say that this is actually looking pretty rock solid. Rock solid, excuse me. Xeno Dragon has taken over the front line, being sure to cover for Zerpiderp, who did go down for a second there. The Navy went down anyway. Zerpiderp did get a bunch of these resurrection submarines up, which is great. I think that's actually the way to play this, is you have one player that just focuses on resurrection and economy, and then you have the other player that just focuses on Navy, and probably you want a Cortex player doing the Navy, and the... Oh, looks like we had a little bit of a pause there. Anyway, and the Armada player doing the resurrection, and then you just, yeah, you just help each other out. You do the best you can, and I think, yeah, it's gonna end up in a situation like this where you have one player that can micro all of the battleships and everything, and then one player that can resurrect all the different things that are chilling at the bottom of the sea. I would love to just see all of these handed over to Xeno Dragon. You might as well just make the jobs easier by having one player micro all the units and one player micro all of the resurrection, the reclaim, all that good stuff. I think it would end up working out pretty good. Another bombing run was attempted here. Looks like there wasn't much commitment, and we did take out a couple of tidal generators, which is nice. Those are probably the most efficient energy source out on the field right now, bar a advanced fusion reactor, which I would be surprised if we saw. Yeah, so whoa, that's a lot of advanced solar panels. Wow. That's an insane amount of solar panels. We need way more build power here. We could be spamming out hundreds of fighters, but at the moment, Gate JW is just leaking a ton of resources. What on earth? Yeah, they've got this huge area of metal extractors, but they're not upgrading any of them. We do have the T2 constructor here. Wait, what? I'm a bit confused. Gate JW is asking to buy a T2, but he already has the T2 lab. I think he means that... I think he should be selling T2. Or maybe he wanted an aerial lab. Maybe that's what it was. I'm very confused here. I'm not sure why this T2 isn't going around and upgrading all these metal extractors. I think that's probably our first order of business here. Units are being handed around all over the place. K-Sulfur is looking for a way to repair here, or Reign of Terror. That, in fact, actually, trying to read the chat while also watching the game, and it's just getting me distracted. So I'm gonna stop doing that. Sheldons are out, and these are always tricky to deal with. You push too far forward, and suddenly you've overcommitted. You don't push into them, and they just shell away at you for 10 minutes, and eventually everything you know and love is gone. Yeah, they're hard to deal with. They're a pain for sure, and you also can't let them snowball, because if they can snowball and you know, they start outnumbering you, they hit that critical mass, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Not a World of Tanks. Not sponsored. But hey, World of Tanks, you're looking for a sponsor? Let me know. I'd be happy to take a sponsorship from World of Tanks. I feel like that's a fairly fitting sponsor for this game, actually, now that I think about it. Like, fairly often on a lot of those big flat maps, it does essentially turn into World of Tanks. You can see how bruised up a lot of these units are just from those Sheldon. Again, it's sort of just like passive damage, right? Like, the Sheldon alone don't kill anything super quickly, but you get 4 or 5 of them. Wow, another pause, okay. You get 4 or 5 of them together, and eventually you can start carving down a lot of these units real slowly over time. This is nice. We're moving some of these destroyers up north a little bit to try and help out Artigosaurus. And for what it's worth, yeah, we're doing a great job. The destroyers can shell away from ultra long distance here, so there's no threat to them. They're just happy to contribute a lot of firepower, and these thugs will once again step forward. I think we need to see some resbots here for Artigosaurus. I think 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 resbots would be... Oh, we do have resbots. They're just all being chilling back here. Yeah, get the resbots out here, man. Piece this army back together. Just huge res command on all of this stuff, and you're gonna be looking real cool. thugs are phenomenal in the sense that once you resurrect them, they get a ton of health back. So yeah, piece them back together. Yeah, it looks like Zarpiderp is going to be doing that for Artagosaurus' sake here, just piecing together as many of these thugs as possible. Nicely done. Can't commit too much more away from the naval front here. You really don't want to let this get out of hand. We do also already have the T2 Buccaneers. Those are the Cortex cruisers, and they're pretty strong. They can do a lot of damage. They've a twin hyper laser. What's the Star Wars lasers called? Are they hyper lasers? Anyways, they've got two big green lasers, turbo lasers. That's what they're called. They've got 2 turbo lasers, and then they've also got 2 light lasers. They're an interesting ship. Oh, they've also got the depth charges. Can't forget about that. Going for naval fusion reactors on this map is a bit odd, considering how efficient those tidal generators are. I think we would literally be more efficient just building tidal generators than underwater fusion reactors. But anyway, we are up to T2 here, at least for your boy 44778, who is now getting some Paladin out. Those are the Armada cruisers. A little bit of a different style. They've got a triple-headed gun and then 2 light lasers. They also have depth charge launchers, even though you can't see them. Those are light laser platforms on the side there. A bit odd looking, actually. Those light lasers kind of don't fit in with the general aesthetic for light lasers. This agitator is firing up into the air and trying to do a little bit of damage here. It's just blind firing though, so not really going to be able to do too much. And the Sheldon are starting to hit that number. They're getting up there to that point where you can't really engage into them without hoping to kill most of them. The southern side looks to be stagnating, so we'll rotate on up north here. David Blade is going for a little bit of a pork. They're setting up the static defenses. I don't mind it, although I always prefer aggression over porking, but sometimes it's necessary. You never really know where your enemy's going to hit you from, so sometimes you got to throw down a static defense or two, just on the off chance that a unit should run by. Everybody's stepping up to that T2 economy. That's kind of where everyone's head is at the moment. This is a lot of T1 solar panels. I sure would love to see these eaten up, but we don't really even have the energy yet. I think we might be about on track here to set up a fusion reactor, or even an advanced fusion reactor. You know, sometimes it's not too bad to just go for it. Looks like this K-bot does actually have it planned. We're gonna go for one more batch of advanced fusion reactors. That should be a good amount of power. 300 if I am correct. That should be quite nice. Hounds are out, and we all know those are pretty good. Pretty devastating. They're not going to be able to compete against destroyers, though. I mean, not on the destroyer's home turf, anyway. Destroyers are meant to, well, destroy. You guessed it. Yeah, David Blade going for the full tech up here. We've got the sharpshooters, we've got the fusion reactors, we've got the T1 and T2 bot labs, we've even got a T2 naval lab, so wow, we're actually getting some paladins out. That's quite nice. We have a radar jammer ship, and the radius on the radar jammer ships is always tremendous. Look at the huge radius you get on one of those. Pretty impressive. I wouldn't mind, oh yeah, I was just about to say this, I wouldn't mind a missile ship or two, just to start besieging the outer fringes of this area. Sharpshooters are trying their very best, but firing into the fog of war is never a good idea. The sharpshooters are, well, they don't really, their globule that they fire doesn't really have any volume to it, so it's sort of just, they fire into the dark, and they might hit something, but more than likely they won't, as you can see. You can always get a pinpointer, of course, and if you get the pinpointer, it makes it like 98% accurate or something like that, so that's one way to improve your accuracy. A lot of people talk about in the comment sections a lot of the times, which I do read, by the way, in case you needed proof that I do read all those, and I do get a little dopamine hit from every comment that you guys leave. A lot of times people will talk about how they wish this game had upgrades, a la the T1, T2. T3, or I guess I should say the +1, +2, +3 upgrades in StarCraft. And yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. Kind of the only thing like the upgrades that we have is the pinpointers, which just allow you to hit your radar pinpoints a little more accurately. Which, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really feel like a doesn't feel like it's the most important the most important upgrade, right? Like, volume of fire wise, you could either get a pinpointer for 800 metal or something like that, or you could just go and build 20 more artillery pieces, and on average most of them will hit, right? So it's a tricky thing to balance here. The Buccaneers finally pounce, and they do tear through a whole lot of this this facility. The T1 units don't really hold up. The Navy's finally clashing here, and it is explosive. There's also a battleship out now, heavy hitter. I'm trying to think of what you call one of these. I guess it's a well, this is the flagship for now, although it's not the technical name for it. It can still take a lot of damage. Yeah, we have these long-range battle submarines, and those do a ton of damage. The Krakens, or the Serpent for Armada, I believe. The torpedo this thing fires is huge. It's a little underwhelming compared to some of the projectiles that we see in other places in this game, but it really does the most damage out of anything, I'm pretty sure, in the Navy theater. The blue team's gonna have to contest this field though, because that's a ton of metal that just went down right there. I'm guessing a couple thousand at least. There we go. Yeah, 14,000 metal. That's enough to well cement themselves into a proper late game. Whoa, I was thinking these were tigers because there were so many of them, but no, those are 9 bulls headed forwards, and bulls are tough. They hit hard and they do not pull their punch. There's a reason they're named for that. They will wreck your base quicker than a bull in a china shop. As you can see here, even going up against these T2 tanks, these T2 turtles, the amphibious tanks, and they burst them down real quick. Commander goes down as well here for Wakandanon. And yeah, these turtles never stood a chance. Now the bulls are very prone to friendly fire. That's one thing that you can catch them with. If you can convince them to shoot at their own toes, they'll be more than willing to, which is oftentimes their demise. But still, they're super tanky and do a superb amount of damage. They're getting a lot further than I'm sure our red player, our maroon player, is comfortable with here. Metal or energy converters rather do go down, and this is really what we're looking for, trying to chain react some of that production. All said and done though, that was a tremendous amount of metal to commit for a relatively little amount of gain. I mean, we did kill the commander, that's pretty nice. We also took out a whole lot of this static defense on the shore here, but again, that's kind of things that these missile carriers could have done too, so I'm not really sure if that was worth it, but it was fun to watch at the very least. A dragon is moving in here, and we're going to start using it to try and harass this facility. There is an anti-air turret here, a flak turret, so we are going to at least have some sort of mounted defense against this. A lot of fighters were brought with this, but they were sort of angled the wrong direction, which does mean that eventually the fighters in the red team's favor will win out. Thundery Monk doing a good job of maneuvering those into the right position here. Thundery Monk is actually just committing entirely to the aerial theater. I think that's nice. Whenever you can afford to just let somebody play air, it's almost always worth it. Just because of the fact that when you're playing air, it's basically just volume that you want. Like you just want as many units as possible. That's really what's going to win it. So letting someone focus on that is always nice. Battleship is taking a little bit of a beating here from some offshore or some onshore persecutors. Buccaneers have fortified this lower section as well. This kind of canal thing. Sort of an odd shape to it, but yeah, they've fortified that, and they've made sure to lock it down. At this point, the army for the red, or the navy rather, for the red team is looking much more menacing than the navy for the blue. And that's why we are going for one of those epochs, the capital ships, and that's a great reason to spend a bunch of your metal on the high seas. Those are definitely very effective against a lot of this stuff. Submarine gets caught here, and that is unfortunate. Those battle submarines are very expensive, 1,200 apiece, more or less, and you really don't want to lose those if you can bear it. couple of paladins are pretty scuffed up for it, though. That Kraken did not go down without a fight. I always love it when there's a Razorback or something with like 1 health left and a pawn gets the kill. Just feels just, you know what I mean? Anyways, this area was never really properly cleaned up, so yeah, we're eating up the corpses of the bulls that are still lying around over here. I think it's a great idea. Yeah, somebody might as well have that medal, and it might as well be you. Can we just take a second to appreciate the music in this game? It's so epic. I'm just gonna give myself a break here and let you guys enjoy this music, because, man, that is such a beautiful score that Ryan Krause put together here. Also, a huge thank you to the Beyond All Reason developers who realized that the new modern soundtrack that was composed was all copyright stricken by YouTube policies, and so they changed it so that it wasn't the default, so that us YouTubers, us content creators, didn't get struck down from the high heavens for using it. Battleship is so low here; it's not going to take but 1 or 2 shots in order to kill it. Oh, we just don't know it though. That is a little unfortunate. So much artillery fire could come out of one of these battleships here, or one of these flagships here. It's not the most damage in the world, but it is definitely a lot of damage over time. Man, these Krakens are so dangerous too. You can see these two just lobbing the heads off of every one of these paladins that's coming into touch here. The torpedoes they fire are also a homing torpedo. It's a... what is it called? A advanced torpedo. I believe it's heat-seeking, so it'll find its target if it's shot at once. So it's a pretty great weapon. Now this battleship escaped with just 219 health. That's playing it pretty close there, but it will be nice to see that thing come back. We do have a Black Hydra almost finished here, so that'll be really phenomenal once we get that on the front lines. That way we could start contesting this epoch that is just laying down immense daca upon the red forces. At some point or another, the advantage here was lost, and I'm willing to bet our Artagosaurus had to tech up. Looks like we are... oh yeah, there it is. There is T2 out. Yeah, we have a lot of T2 units for Bobby, but basically none for Artagosaurus. I don't really know why. Like, it feels like we've been in this battle for a good long time, so I'm not sure. I'm not really sure why there was such a lack of units here. We have the T2 lab, we have the build power. Everything is in place for Artagosaurus to start making a whole bunch of fiends for himself, and just isn't happening for some reason. I don't know what's going on here. An APM stall, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he thinks he's got some command on repeat or something on repeat, but unfortunately not the case here, and it's only a matter of time before Artagosaurus realizes that he doesn't really have what he needs. Trying to pork up this island is never going to be as effective as just building some units and going and storming this one. So, although I like the idea of building maybe a couple of static defense, build a couple of those pop-up Shabo batteries, the Scorpions, maybe 1 or 2 of these Persecutors as well. But you definitely don't need to re-fortify this island every single time. Just give it a little bit and you'll be fine. Going after the anti-nuke ship here. Although that was only because it was just the last ship in range. These are some nice naval engagements right here. Need to get some clips of these. What a cool scene right there. That is pretty epic. The naval retreat. And then all the ships in the background, as well as whatever's firing away over there. You see that? I don't know what that was, but it's firing a whole hell of a lot of artillery. The second epoch has apparently hit the field here. It's going to start firing away. I love Navy. Just one of my favorite parts of this game. There's a lot to love, but you know, everybody's got their favorite. The epochs do suffer from the same problem that some of the other units in this game do, especially the naval units, and it's that they can't really fire all their batteries when they're facing a certain direction. So the epoch is a lot more effective when it's pointed head first towards whatever it's aiming at, versus the some of these other ships. Like for instance, this one, you can imagine that if it's facing backwards, the front head can't shoot past the rear one. So you have to make sure they're pointed in the right direction, otherwise things get problematic. Some destroyers were brought out from the T1 age, the T1 era. Old T1 units. It's kind of like the Cold War era tech that we talk about all the time. That you know, people talk about all the time. Maybe you don't talk about that all the time. I hear a lot about it. But instead of Cold War era, it's T1 era. Anyways, the northern part is pretty stale. We've kind of reached a little stalemate here. We did get a capital ship up, but I'm not sure why we're not just using this to completely besiege this island over here. We could just be using this to rain fire all over the place here. This ship could even reach into the base of Wakanda Non, but it is not, and I'm not sure why exactly. I suppose we just don't have visions, so we don't really know that we could be firing over in that direction. A anti-cloak unit detector was built. However, it will not spare these units as they have already been paralyzed and will be out of the game very shortly here. The Hounds marching forward on their unsuspecting prey. Dreadnought's pretty nice to just park around, though. That's a lot of damage per second. You can just cram into one unit and park anywhere on this map. This map is interesting for that. You can really use naval units to harass the land units a lot more so than really any other map that comes to mind. It's just not something we usually see where the Navy and the land are intertwined so deeply. And these assault submarines have been a huge pain, just causing immense pain to the blue team here. Tons of damage on the capital ships, tons of damage to a bunch of the destroyers, just all over the place, being a really, really big pain in the neck. Yeah, we do eventually have some predators coming out here, the assault submarines for the Cortex faction, and I think that's what we need. We need that, or we need more paladins, right? Well, I guess a million destroyers will work too. Yeah, why not? As all these destroyers launch their depth charges to sweep away the submarine menace. It's a battle of the artillery down south here. It's just who can put out more DACA per second, and it's going to be a hard one to win. What I wouldn't mind seeing is more flexibility in terms of hovercraft or something like that. I mean, you can imagine, right? Like if you built a hovercraft lab and you just made I don't know, 100 Seekers over here, you could just push forward with them. Whoops! You could just push forward. No, come on now. You can just push forward with them and come at the red team from all sides. Likewise for the red players, you can do the exact same thing, but in reverse order, of course. Dragons do try and snipe the commander here, down to 20%, 18%. Oh, we were so close. 20% left on that commander. I think we could have committed and we might have even got it. If that commander had gone down, that would have been devastating for this island here. I mean, we can look at the explosive radius. I'm pretty sure basically everything here would go up in that nuclear explosion right there. Unfortunate that we didn't pull the trigger on that commander there. I think we were really close, way closer than I guess Gate realized. So many advanced solar panels. It's about time we switch these over for an advanced fusion reactor. We've already got almost 4,000 energy per second here. Yeah, I think going up to an advanced fusion reactor is well warranted, especially if we want to keep producing these dragons. They're so metal expensive. Hounds were eventually brought across, but there is tons of these starlights, and those are so dissuading. It really just feels like walking up into a brick wall when you're trying to push starlights, because it's just one or two shots and everything you've known and loved has disappeared. You have the bombers coming in as well, the blizzards, and just like that, there was nothing left of that massive hound army that our teal player was at one point moving across the map. Yeah, we need vision over here. A spy bot or two would be phenomenal. Radar bots are going to have to do the job for now, though. We're up to 3 capital ships, currently outputting constant firepower. It's not to be underestimated either. I mean, the capital ships alone don't seem like they do very much damage, but when you get them into enough numbers, they can start to ravage, well, basically anything pretty quickly. Like, these paladins will fall real quick. Also, these dreadnoughts. The dreadnoughts are sort of like the side guns of the battleships as far as comparable firepower goes. So I really like the inclusion of those, but it does mean that we're dreadfully lacking in underwater power. So these submarines are going to be critical here. Otherwise, just a big batch of those Predator submarines is going to ravage these dreadnoughts, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see here. So the interesting thing about this is when you get a couple of Navy players that are all playing the same lane, you get that sort of frontline backline dynamic, which is really weird, and we don't usually see that in Navy, but it does mean that you can have these long, sustained battles that don't just swing one way or another. I mean, certainly that can happen, but it seems like it's much less prone to happening, which is great. I think that takes some of the frustration out of playing Navy, because otherwise it just feels like you lose one engagement and suddenly you've lost the entire game, which is it's a frustrating way to play. There are so many resurrection submarines under the water here. Excellently done by Clone Zero, but going to be infuriating for our blue player here, Zerbuderp, as well as the green assistant Xeno. Marauders are out as well. I should mention a T3 underwater facility was produced, and so a lot of Marauders are now lurking in the depths. They will be seen for the first time here, I believe. Yep, there they go, as they walk on over this little hill. We'll have to see what kind of damage they can do. I mean, obviously they can't really harm anything over here because they need to be above water in order to fire their guns. But still, I mean, they're a T3 unit, and they can pop up anywhere. They could certainly ravage anything near these coastlines over here, or just walk up the coast and take out the entire northern side of the map. Of course, our blue hero is going to try and stop that as best we can. We do have a couple of these advanced torpedo launchers that were built. They do a whole lot of damage. They are a homing torpedo launcher, and yeah, let's just say there's a reason they cost nearly, what is it, $2,000? $1,000, sorry, 1,000 metal. Yeah, it's because they're insanely good. The T2, well, as well as the T1 static defense for Navy is insanely powerful. Like, ridiculously powerful. Far and away more powerful than any other static defense in the game. Cost for cost and damage per cost. It's really, really strong. And so those T2 advanced torpedo launchers, they can hold a line like nobody's business. Razorbacks are out, and that switch to T3 is probably why this front line broke in the first place here. Some dragons were brought out as well to shut down some of this aggression, and I really like that. Dragons are very infuriating because unless you have a crazy, crazy good air force, you're never going to be able to shoot those dragons down in time before somebody reacts with something. Razorbacks were pulled from all over the place to protect the ushy-gushy eco-centers of the green player here, Walnut. So the Razorbacks will be redirected, but I think it's fine. I mean, taking out any of these units is going to be a treat anyways, so can't really say that this was a bad position. We're just reallocating some of our forces. Big hovercraft rush over here. Bunch of goons catch some anti-aircraft towers off guard. A couple of chainsaws don't have any sort of protection here. Oh, 3% health. Please finish that one off. We could really open this lane up to some aerial harassment if we just finish off this single... Oh, yeah, we're trying. Come on. There we go. Okay. I was worried for a second there. These guys get into the back line. They do find the fusion reactors, and they do get the energy converters as well. Yeah, these goons are going to be a real pain in GYOH6Y's face. I think it's Gyoki. I'm going to go with Gyoki, even though that's it feels like a bit of a wild stretch to say that, but also I feel like it might be right. Fusion reactor's actually in a little bit of trouble here. Yeah, fusion reactors both go down. Take out a bunch of build power there as well in the form of a lot of those constructors. So yeah, those goons definitely got their value out. They reduced one of the fusion reactors to nothing, you know, just based on the second one exploding. So that was really nicely done. I like these bubble shields coming up everywhere. They're basically a necessity with how many capital ships there are. If you don't build a bubble shield, your troops are just going to infinitely get demolished by a bunch of capital ship fire, a bunch of artillery fire. So it's interesting that we see these bubbles coming up all over the place, but it is a necessary evolution. Submarines have been brought out here for the green player, and I love it. I think that's a great option here. You can see those long-range torpedoes also putting in some work, shredding apart these capital ships. Yeah, if you neglect the underwater aspect of the naval battle, you will suddenly find yourself in this position where there's now 100 submarines and they're all eager to start launching their missiles at you. Oh, this hurts too. Yeah, putting a Titan in the water and then a bunch of submarines jump on top of it. Yeah, you can see just how quickly this thing gets whittled down. Already down 40% health just from submarines alone. I mean, I suppose there's a little bit of cannon fire, but yeah, this is what hurts the most. Paladins are great. They're going to be able to eventually clean this up. But for the time being, the Titan is even stuck on a lot of these long-range battle submarines. I think we need to turn these around and keep firing on the Titan, though. Every bit of damage that we can do to this Titan is going to be well worth it. Kill them while he's in the ocean. Ooh, those missiles missed. Guessing we ran out of vision range there. Very good to see, though. Yeah, this Titan is going to be forced to back off here. It does expose Steel Blue as having that T3 Oh, actually, I guess those Marauders would have exposed him anyway, so never mind that point. Razorbacks are marching forward here, trying their very best to shut down a lot of this static defense. They get the Overseer, that plasma deflector shield, and they're going to keep walking forward, tearing down any static defense that they can. There's still a Scorpion battery up, there's still one of these flame turrets up, so a couple of these Razorbacks are definitely going to fall, but eventually I have a feeling this area will be mopped up. That was expensive, though. That was like 5 Razorbacks in order to break that area. It was an expensive push, and there's not really a lot on the backline in order to recapture all that. Artigosaurus is woefully behind. Economy is not where it needs to be here. We should be on at least a fusion reactor or 2, let alone maybe an advanced fusion reactor. Sort of like what we see up here out of Gate, who is just focusing entirely on the airplay, as well as a couple of those dragons. I think I like that quite a bit more. Torpedo bombers are out, and that's one way to deal with those submarines. It's a bit of a roundabout way to deal with them, but it is certainly a way to deal with them. A couple of anti-airships would do this area nicely. All of these fighters grouping up here, yeah, that was not the fighter engagement we were hoping for. Those Nighthawks took a terrible, terrible engagement against these fighter Falcons, the T1s. So it just goes to show you that, you know, even with T1, as long as you build enough, you're eventually going to be just fine. There is also a little bit of skill to the way that the fighters are piloted. Like, you kind of need to make sure that you point the majority of them towards the majority of the enemy fighters. And ideally, you want to get them behind, right? Like, you want to dogfight tactics, right? Like, you want the fighters to appear behind the enemy fighters, and you're going to get a way better trade. But it's hard to orchestrate that, so oftentimes what you want is a shape like this, like the Rebel Alliance, where all the enemy fighters are going to concave in on this guy, and in this direction, and then your fighters are going to all sweep in from the outsides, and you're going to get this nice little trade where basically all the fighters arrive in the center point, and then all of your fighters kind of get an encircling around all of them. And anyway, it ends up working out pretty good. Titan push up here. It is marching forward. We're getting pretty far with this. I have a feeling that Wakandanon is going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Oh, EMP bombers. That's one option, one way to stall this out here. And it looks like that Titan will be stalled in its tracks. Heavy bombers as well, trying to contribute to the decay of this Titan here. Oh, it almost got one more shot off. Just barely will that be shut down, right in the nick of time. Those EMP bombers were clutch Oh, but it looks like it won't matter as a bunch of energy converters do explode anyways. Unfortunate, but certainly could have been a whole lot worse if that Titan had been up and standing and walking around in the base. I always forget that those can be paralyzed, but it is really, really powerful. I know it takes 2 EMP missiles out of the paralyzer. That's the Armada long-range tactical missile launcher. Black Hydra's here. This is nice. They catch a whole bunch of res bots. That's very expensive. It's going to be quite costly for Artigosaurus. I'm really struggling with that name. Who's also going for an insane amount of solar panels. Okay, guys, we need to have a little chat. This is 7,700 energy, or 7,700 metal for 1,500 energy. For a measly, basically like 1,230 metal, I think. Basically for 9,000 metal, you could get 3,000 energy. So you could basically double this. So just remember that. Just remember that. Advanced solar panels, they're great. They really are. They're an excellent option. But yeah, if you've got the opportunity to go up to some advanced fusion reactors, you should probably take it. Anyways, dragons here are taking down the Black Hydra. Black Hydra do have a light anti-air attack, but it's nothing to nothing to be too afraid of here. The dragons are more than happy to just unleash their laser beams on these Black Hydra and start tearing them to shreds. That being said, it is a pretty slow death, so these are going to get pretty far. Whittled down by about 1% every time the Black Hydras fire, which is not much at all. The Black Hydra slipped right through the defenses here, and they are headed right into the back line. They've bypassed the entire line of defense from the blue player, and have suddenly reached the back of the blue economy. Xenodragon realizes that Artigosaurus is still on T1, which is quite interesting, quite confusing. Artigosaurus very well might be new to this game, so you know, reserving judgment more or less. But yeah, we definitely should be well into T3 by this point in the game. There we go. Eventually, those Black Hydra will be shut down. Now what we can do is resurrect those, of course. Always a decent option. Looks like the Buccaneer tried to push forward as well as some submarines for our red team here. Nice to see that. Those Buccaneer getting some value out still. We have this many exclusively to counter the amount of submarines that we see here, but these are the long-range battle submarines, so really what would counter them more than anything is long-range battle submarines. So I think I would like to see that a whole lot more. Ah, here's one of those paralyzers that I was talking about. Oh, we can even watch it in action. Look at that. Look at that pro commentating. I just can sniff it out. Bzert. And it EMPs everything in a radius for 34 seconds? Is that what that was? Wow. 34 seconds is nothing to scoff at. Oh, can confirm you cannot paralyze the epochs. They are too big. You can shut down as many of their systems as you'd like, but it is still a 45,000 ton piece of metal floating towards you, launching balls of hot fury. So there's only so much you can do. Nuclear bomber, that's a whole lot better. That is a whole lot better. Yeah, you'll have much better effect just bombing the thing than trying to EMP it. That being said, this front line over here for GY0H6Y has has fallen to a bunch of ducks, as well as some more of those goons. The Great Laser Wall of light blue here has been completed. We're even reinforcing with a second Great Laser Wall, and just desperately trying to get anything we can out. We have a couple of these roughnecks here. That's actually more than a couple. I should be fair. That's 10 roughnecks, and those can be pretty good. I'd love to see them used over here. We don't have any dedicated anti-air. I mean, these ducks can aim upwards with their heavy lasers, but it's not really going to do too much against a bunch of roughnecks. Not before the roughnecks are able to take it all down anyways. Again, these T1 fighters are just in such massive numbers that the T2 really are having to struggle. That being said, I mean, bombers aren't gonna struggle against fighters. They're just gonna die with a whimper. But yeah, like an anti-air ship somewhere around here, like you just get one anti-air ship and you park it, you know, somewhere around on the streets here, it'd be pretty nice. Big nuclear missile comes down right in the middle of a big center of units for David Blade, and that hurts a lot. I'm guessing it was this one based on its silver star ranking. Just gonna go ahead and take a guess here. We are on 3 factory planes producing those T1s. So that's how we're able to maintain that massive presence of aerial units. But yeah, I mean, these are one hit to flak turrets. So if you get you get 1 or 2 of these big bundles of units right over a flagship, you're gonna be in a really bad spot all of a sudden. Now this is beyond all reason. Look at all these huge epochs here. This is crazy. This is absolute craziness. Oh, this push is looking good though. That is a lot of Fiends marching with some huge Vanguard fire support behind it. As of right now, there's not a crazy amount going on to defend this either. Those Vanguard are happy to shoot at these ships floating off shores there. They can just lob those projectiles out of their nozzles as they spit all over those capital ships. Those capital ships are unfortunately not into it, so they will go down real quick. Titan here standing against the Fiends, and not a bad thing at all. But certainly those Fiends are going to be happy to just run right past. Very quick units up against, well, a Titanic but slow unit. Looks like the Fiends will be cleaned up. Yeah, okay. We just barely got the last one up on the northern half of this engagement here. So luckily this area will be shut down, but these Vanguards have taken a huge amount of land back and firmly placed it within their control. At this point, K-Sulfur is looking great. We've got the economy up and running. We've got the T3 factory up and running. We've got a nice little outpost here. This is looking very nice. We've got these EMP missiles as well. Look at the range on these bad boys. Look at that huge range. I mean, you can devastate half the map. Well, not devastate, but you can EMP half the map with these bad boys. Oh, looks like I missed a massive engagement down here, though. I guess the capital ships were tired of waiting around and decided to push forward. There's tons of anti-air as well. I do love to see that. And yeah, with this many guns firing at once, it's going to be really hard for any composition to deal with this. Save for submarines. Submarines are the one thing, right? Like, if you can get some submarines out in huge number, you're going to be in a great position. But right now, it's mostly Buccaneers streaming into the fight, and we have more than enough guns on all these ships. Because the thing about these capital ships, right, is their main guns can fire super far away, but their other guns, their other 3 little turrets, they just fire whenever anything comes within range. So really, they're only using like half of their firepower when they're just lobbing shells across the map here. As soon as something comes within range, suddenly 3 more volleys of guns per capital ship come online and just start raining down even more fire. So yeah, they're pretty difficult to deal with, I would say. It's a massive amount of these Basilica, the LRPCs, trying their very best. They do take down a couple of capital ships, well, 1 at the very least. I have a feeling it's not going to be long before this entire area is devastated, though. No, indeed, the capital ships start steaming on ahead, full speed ahead, Captain, as they make their way towards the southern section of the map, which has crumbled completely. Looks like this push here was held. Yep, we've got the Thor as well as the Titan holding on up north here. Those Vanguard were repelled. We have a trickle of units leaking through, but this Black Hydra will be more than happy to mop up grunts with those rapid-fire heavy laser turrets on its bow. And yeah, things are looking bad here for the red team. This is a nice little eco center, but unfortunately, I just don't think it's enough. I think we've already been outscaled here. A Tremor is actually, or a Calamity rather, is coming up. The Tremor is the miniature version. Yeah, with the Calamity on the rise, I guess we are eventually going to get into that endgame scenario. Can't even spend all the metal that we have right now. Is this just from Reclaim? Yeah, it is from Reclaim. We're pulling in 1,224 metal per second here. It's insane to me that the entire blue team doesn't have full metal bars with that much metal income being overflowed to teammates here. That is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Big reactor explosion down south there. Looks like the fighters have decided to move in and try their very best to eliminate a whole lot of these ships over here, these airships, if you will. Yeah, those T1 fighters, man. You just make enough of them, and they'll do great things. But you can see the flak hard at work here, as every time one of those fires, it does take out a massive amount of these fighters. That is fighter bombardment right there. Justice reigns from above has never been truer as all of these fighters get shot out of the sky in droves. Dropping like flies, quite literally. Now the capital ships are continuing their pressure forward here. All of these engineers eating up the corpses off the bottom. Whoa, whoa. Eating these corpses worth 97,000 metal off the bottom of the ocean floor. Yeah, we're gonna be able to afford a calamity and then some. 61,000 for a calamity, and we've got a 94,000. So we'll be able to finish the one that we have and then build a whole separate one. So hopefully we see that sometime soon. Eventually the battery on these energy shields are going to fail. If they don't fail sooner than that, as a looks like a cheeky dreadnought has snuck around the side here and will detonate one of these advanced fusion reactors. That's a pretty funny ragdoll in that building there, spinning away. Reminds me of those little pull tab things that what were those toys called? Beyblades, that's what they were called. Reminds me of those. Dragon's here to clean up the Marauders. Not a perfect solution, but a decent one. It's like 80% good. Calamity is now firing, and oh, this is always dangerous. We've deflected a couple of shots into the backline here. We might accidentally hit an eco center if we keep this up. All of these EMP missiles have fired. Don't know what they're targeting here. Looks like we are paralyzing some of the anti-air ships over here. Not bad, but you're not going to be able to paralyze the capital ships, which are really the things doing the most damage at the moment. Batteries are drained over here, but we're not firing into that. Unfortunately, these capital ships are just sort of misdirected. I think they could be used to a little bit more effect, but does it really matter? I mean, with the Calamity up and running, things are going to start falling pretty quickly here. There goes the production for the rovers, or at least half of them. And shortly here, I have a feeling that we're going to see the total collapse of the yellow player. Calamity launching these projectiles every which way. Really, the plasma shield is the one doing that more than anything else, though. There we go. The capital ships do eventually focus their fire over here. And yeah, they will eat up all of the, or they will blow up, I should say, all of the defenses and whatnot over in this area. Targeting Bobby's advanced fusion reactors. I'm sure he's pissed about it. There's not really much he can do. He can always move the commander over to the seashore and try and degun some of these capital ships. That might be worthwhile. I mean, it is just capital ships, so if you get the commander into a nice little position, you might actually be able to pull off a nice little degun. Ooh, but it looks like we do have radar over here. Oh, that's right. These come with radar built in, so actually, yeah, there was never a chance. I did notice 3 pinpointers back here, so yeah, we're up to that 98% accuracy, meaning that these capital ships, not only are they deadly, but they're deadly accurate. There goes a big hit to the economies as a big chain of advanced fusion reactors goes up in smoke. Meanwhile, the Calamity is continuing to fire. I doubt we have many targets in range, though. Yeah, not really. But, you know, the fear that it induced was well worth it. At this point, building torpedo launchers to deal with the underwater facilities, which is just hilarious. Units are overrated. Looks like we were trying to set up a production facility out here. We do have some constructor turrets, but they are more focused on patching up this Titan here. Unfortunately, they will go down. So now you're in a weird spot, right? Now you're in this position where you have all this navy and tremendous amounts of firepower, but you have no way of getting onto land. Well, Titans are one way to do it. Yeah, go for that T3 gantry. We have the means to support producing tons and tons and tons of them. We are literally only lacking in build power, although we do have another T3 facility. We should turn this one on. Make 2 Titans at once. Yeah, there we go. Why not? That would put us at a solid and steady 913 metal per second down the drain. And we're actually keeping up with it because of all that reclaim from all the juicy stuff over here. I think eventually that's going to run out, but for now, at the very least, it's quite nice. Was there ever a big eco center set up? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we've got tons and tons of these naval fusion reactors set up in the back line here. Oh, looks like something ran through and did manage to catch a big chunk of the eco here for Gate JW. But it was not all of it, so they will stay in the game, at least for now. Meanwhile, there goes K-Sulphur's main production facility. All of the advanced fusion reactors light up as the Thor gets into the back line, giving that also precious vision for these offshore devastators. The Titan brothers are walking in. I thought these were pawns for a second just because I was zoomed out and I couldn't tell. No, these are Titans. It's just 5 of them. Only 5 Titans, right? Yeah, 5 Titans are marching in here, and things are starting to look pretty dire for the red team. Well, they were starting to look dire a couple minutes ago. At this point, they're looking just downright depressing. There goes a big part of the production centers here as the T2 build power is shut off. That was all the flak, that was all the bulls, all that good stuff. Now the pawns have swept through, taking out the advanced fusion reactors for La Copa. Looks like we tried something over here, but the Dragons were quick to shut it down. And that is going to be the end of this match for the red team. I don't even know if they have production anymore. We have 1 air lab. We have 1 T1 lab. Yeah, there we go. GG to all parties involved. That was an epic match. It really was. An hour and 2 minutes long, and full of action from start to finish. This naval battle down here was maximum effort. Just huge effort from both of these players. Really interesting to see a backline player in a Navy lineup. That was really something else. Wow, Zerpeter far and away stealing the eco advantage here, showing us that true skill is not all for nothing. I hope you enjoyed this video of Beyond All Reason. I would really appreciate it if you consider leaving me a like down below, or a dislike, either way. If you if you dislike this video, that's fine feedback as well. You might not be able to see it, but I can tell how many there are. Or just leave me a comment. That's probably my favorite way to hear from you guys. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.